A big hello and a welcome. It's Claire from Wiltshire. Down on the plot today was not fun coming into it with all of the damage. Now, it wasn't a big storm, it was just high winds, and boy, did it cause some damage to my plot. Some surprising damage. I was not at all prepared for my largest sunflower to be blown over with the rootstock as thick and deep as it was. That was a big shocker for me. And it was sad to see. It was sad to see something so bold and big and bright and beautiful laying on the floor. So that was a bit of a disappointment. However, I did have to change up my plans for the plot. So I had to fix all of the wind damage first before I could actually crack on and do the planting that I've been desperately wanting to do for weeks. However, this was the first day of no rain in about 2.5 weeks. And boy, did I make the most of it. I was extremely tired by the end of the 3.5 hours that I'd spent on the plot. What a lovely surprise to see a new pumpkin growing, an orange one too. So that's in the space of a week, it's got to that size. So I'm starting to feel really positive that I'm going to get more pumpkins. I know they're not going to be huge, but I can still do a lot with the size that I have got. There was a few squishy pumpkins that definitely needed to be removed. But with the additional ones, I don't feel like I've lost out on anything. I am trying to go down the route of sustainability and eating what I'm growing as much as possible and storing what I'm growing as much as possible. So having these extra pumpkins that have no time limit of when I want them to be ready for, and just letting the weather do its own thing. On to fixing everything. I started with the archway as that was what was leaning the most. I didn't want to take it down because I am drying out the dragon beans on there so I can use the beans for next year. If I have enough, I'd like to dry some and put some in a little jar so I can add to some stews and some soups over the winter period. I've decided with what I've learnt about beans this year and how well they grow is that they're not just to eat fresh and to freeze, and that if I allow the plant to go to seed, then I get more produce, and the more you get from the plants you grow, the more money in your pocket essentially, because you're having to purchase less from the supermarket and you are filling your family with food for a lot less money than what you would if you take it down just because it's starting to look a little bit messy. Nothing else is going to be grown over the arch during the winter season. So why not let it just go to seed now? So that was the plan. One side of the archway actually went in quite far into the ground, but this side here with the dragon beans on was a little bit more tough, so I did have to use my rubber mallet just to pop it in a little bit harder and a little bit further. Once the dragon beans have come off, I will leave the archway up over the winter period if I can get it further on into the ground, and maybe even support it with some pieces of wood for now. Ideally, I would love some wooden archways around the plot, but that is probably 2 years away, and the cheap metal ones will have to do for now. I don't put anything big and heavy like pumpkins or anything like that on them, so I'm pretty sure they can withstand just holding some flowers and some climbing beans over the next year, and probably have to think about by next Christmas have to get rid of them completely. But they've served me well so far for the year that they've been in. I've had quite a few things growing up and over them, including purple monge too. That was a delicious one for me. The brassica bed that has taken a few weeks to build, although I knew it wasn't overly stable, I was not expecting it to come down as much as it did. Some of the stakes stayed in the ground, thankfully. That's why it's still standing. And some of the wooden poles that are a metre into the ground had completely loosened. I think a combination of the wind and how much rain there has been has really loosened the soil. When I first put them in, the soil was really, really tough. So they stayed in the ground very, very well. But like I said, now it's got a little bit loose down there. They are starting to wobble here, there and everywhere. Some extra stakes went in just to help with support, but that doesn't seem to have made much difference. So I think I'm going to have to take the whole frame off in one go, add some more wood to it, and just some deeper stakes, I think, and then attach the bed back over it in the hope that the wind doesn't take it down again or doesn't push it over completely. Apart from that, possibly popping some supports in. That's the only thing I can think of right now to make it more stable. But it is up there and it hasn't moved, and I have managed to mallet it down just a little bit. Sad times for me with this sunflower. It's currently the tallest one, but if you can see, it's leaning towards the brassica bed. So if the root does come up, it's going to go and collapse on the brassica bed, which would be an absolute nightmare because they are so heavy it would literally crush the bed. So I did make the decision to cut it off and use the stem and use the flowers for seed. So here we go with my big power tool. I say big because it's really heavy for me to be able to hold. The battery is fully charged, which was what was wrong with it last week without me even realizing the battery did not hold charge for very long. Another problem I've encountered, the cauliflowers have all got severe aphids. Like, I've not seen anything like that before at all in any video, YouTube, TikTok, or anything on Google. I've never seen an infestation like that before. So I kind of understand now why there's no heads growing on the cauliflowers. So that will need a deep dive. Okay, it's not often you see me on my knees. So I'm going to be planting out all the brassicas. So the things that I will need is gloves, depending on how wet it's going to be once I get through this top layer of compost that I put down. Snips in case anything that I plant has got some not great leaves on it. A pen for the labels, so my mum's going to know what I've planted. So when I shout out commands like, can you water this and can you water that, she hasn't got to keep asking me, which one's that? An essential tool to make the holes for me to be able to put the plugs in as efficiently and quickly as possible. And then I have some rings. I may not need to use these because obviously the bed is fully covered. However, if I've got anything that's quite fragile going into the ground and something maybe next to it that isn't, like my broccoli is a lot bigger than some of the other things, it will just help make sure none of their leaves will go on top of the actual new plug and squash it. Right, so I've been looking forward to this job, but I've also not been looking forward to this job because it's a big one. Let's see how long I can kneel for. Kneeling at the moment is a lot less painful than sitting, purely because my hip is awful. Okay, so anything I don't need straight away, I'm just going to pop over to one side and let's have a look. Let's even this out because this was lovely and even. So this was lovely and even. I don't want it too close to the edge, although it's leeks going in on the edge. I don't want too much to touch the outside of the bed. Okay, so leeks. So a little tip that I have learned from my first time of growing leeks is to make a bigger hole, go down further. All of the white should be completely covered and part of the green that means your leek will fit into the hole, as opposed to your leek trying to push the hole out to fit into it. So I'm trying to go down to just where the metal is, which is that deep. So I'm planning on doing 5 at a time. Okay, 5, and then 2 across, and then 3 here. So I'm going to stick with my keeping all of the leeks on the outsides of the beds. Okay, so we have the leeks. So here is the label for the leeks, and the instructions are: harvest in January to December, 25 weeks from plot to plate, 15 centimeters apart. I've probably done 10. Plant at the bottom of a hole about 15 centimeters deep, so I've probably done 10 again. Fill the hole with water, not soil. This is a very versatile vegetable used in stews, casserole, soups, and on its own. It is possible to have leeks available in the garden all year round. Harvest throughout late summer, autumn, winter, and spring. Okay, so I would say, I'm just going to maneuver myself, I need to go down just a little bit more. So 15 centimeters. So let's just gently take them out because they, as you can see, desperately needed to be planted. Can you see those ones? Wow, this might take longer than I anticipated. So that one's not very big, so I'm just going to put any that are not very big back in. I will probably use them even if I put them in a different bed. Okay, so there you go. So that's my first one, so let's pop that in there, and I'm just going to use the dibber just to push it down as far as I can push it. Okay, and the other thing that I was told was to not close up the hole, so leave it as it is to grow into the hole. So there's another one. That one's got lovely roots on it, that one. Okay, and one more, so that's a good size, and that's too small, so I'll put that to one side. But this one's lovely, making sure all the roots are fully submerged into the hole and it can go down as far as it can. I'm not sure about that one, so I can come back to that one if I need to. However, I have got a really lovely big one here, so let's take that one out. That one's got lovely roots on it. Space, I'd put them all in here, but I don't. Okay, so that's going into the hole, and then pop all the roots in. So it is leaf miner season, which is why I've tried to hold on for as long as possible. But now the brassica cage is done, I can pop them in and not have to worry about it, I hope, because this is a very thick netting. That one there, and I've got a lovely thick one here. Oh, that one is absolutely stunning. Let's pop that one in there. So all the way to the bottom, and then just leave it. Use my fingers on that one. Okay, so that's the leek. Okay, so the next thing to go in next to the leeks is curly kale. So this is the Red Boar F1 variety, and then I have got more dwarf kale here that I grew from seed. However, this has got quite a few aphids on it. I have sprayed them already, so I can't be on my knees. I have sprayed these already, so I'm hoping I don't need to spray them anymore. Okay, so let's have a read. So harvest in September, May, 60 centimeters apart. I find that 35 to 40 is more than enough. 12 weeks from plot to plate, and plant in a container or 60 centimeters apart in rows. Keep plants well watered in dry weather. I don't think we have to worry about that. Protect from the birds in the winter. I have them in a cage. Autumn planted crops will benefit from some protection. Harvest young leaves regularly to encourage new growth. Let's get these ones in. They're very pretty. So a combination of the two. So I'm going to try and go every other all the way down. So I have made 2 holes, so I'm going to put one of each in. Okay, let's start here with the curly kale, the purple variety, and then I am going to take these ones out of the pot, and then I am going to plant one of these ones next. That's not looking great. Again, I am going to pick the better ones out of them all. Okay, and that one there. So that's a good 30 centimeters apart. Okay, so that is the curly kale. There is 10. I have alternated them. I've also popped collars on them. I gave them a spray with an aphid spray, a homemade one, before I brought them down. So I do need to keep an eye on that. So as you can see, the aphids right there, I am going to water these in, so I'm hoping it's going to knock a lot of them off. It's a variety of sizes. The purple one seems to have grown better, but I mean, look at the aphids on that one. Horrible things. So next I have my favourite, cabbage. This is the Sweetheart variety. I love this one. Just pop that out, and as you can see, the roots, they really need to go in. Okay, so let's have a little read of what we're doing here. So we have harvest in May, March, 45 centimetres apart, plot to plate in 12 weeks, plant firmly in rows 45 centimetres apart, keep plants well watered in dry weather, protect from birds, has a long harvesting period from May through to spring the following year depending on planting date. So we will have a row of these down because they are 45 centimetres apart. All of these should fit in one row, fingers crossed. So the plan with these ones is to go in between. So I'm going to come across and then in between. As the curly kale comes up, I will harvest from the bottom, which will leave a stalk, which gives plenty of room here for the Sweetheart cabbage to then pull out its longer, greener, lower leaves, and then the heart of the cabbage to come up. So that is the plan for spacing. Okay, so we have one. I'm going to go down one at a time. Oh, these are very, very wet. Because I knew I was planting them today, I made sure I gave them a really good water last night. Okay. And I'm not going to collar these ones because obviously the kale next to it has a collar. So as soon as the kale starts to get a little bit bigger, double in size, that is when I will take the collars off, and if necessary I can pop the collars on anything else down here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in total. So fingers crossed I can get them all in this row, being as they are my favourite. So next we have the broccoli going in. This is looking absolutely fantastic. They were from Dobby's 3 for £10. Let's have a look at the tag. Let's read it for you guys. I always say, even if you've grown things before, still read the tags, because different varieties need different conditions, and it's a really good refresher. That's obviously if you can actually get the tag out. Okay, the tag is out. So we have the Calabrese green. So let's go for small, dense, well-shaped heads with a lovely bud colour. A secondary, excuse me, I've got aphids on my hands. A secondary crop of several smaller spears appear later from side shoots. So I did wait for those ones last year when I grew the broccoli last year. However, it took so long, it wasn't worth the wait. You didn't get a lot. So I think this year what I will be doing is, as soon as the main head comes off, I will lop it off, cut it all up, stick it into some boiling water with some celery and other bits and pieces, and make vegetable stock. Put them into large ice cube trays and then freeze them, rather than wasting 4 or 5 weeks just sat there for the tiny little bit of broccoli that you can possibly find to harvest. There are different varieties of broccoli where you can get the heads much larger that do not produce the side shoots. I haven't found that one yet. I know they grow a lot in America and then a lot in Australia as well, so I need to figure out which type that is. So if anyone does know that type, please pop in the comments, because you'll be saving me a lot of hard work on Google trying to figure out which one it is. So this is what I've got for now. So this is what's going in. So let's pop it out. Okay, so there is a chunk missing
because I have planted some at home because I knew I wouldn't have enough space for all of these. Okay, so again, this is, it actually didn't give me too much information, this one. Okay, spacing 45 centimeters apart each way. So that will give me enough space in this bed to do one whole row coming all the way down.
So that is the brassica bed done. The rows look very neat. I'm very happy with how in line they are, considering I didn't use string. And just that little step there, as you walk in, I am leaving completely bare, except I will mulch it just so it looks like a path, so you know what you're standing on. With a little gap here, I wasn't sure at first what to put in there, but it didn't take very long to find something else to put in there. That does require a little bit more compost to put there. And the Brussels sprouts will be ready in 8 weeks, and then I will mulch all down the side of the Brussels sprouts, and that can be my main path then. That way, if I do need to water, which I shouldn't imagine I do, that way I can go up and down, see to any of the crops, cover anything that needs covering with fleece, and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, the brassica bed will be perfect, and I will have lovely, lovely crops for next year as long as the aphids stay away and that I find no caterpillars. Just like I thought I would find something else to put in that space because I had so much. I have got some kale growing there. So not the curly variety, it's a black kale with long, big, strong leaves. That is what I have put in that space. They fit pretty perfectly, to be honest. With kale, I don't like it to get too big because then I find the taste a little bitter. So I do pick my kale slightly younger, especially as I like to pop it into the air fryer and crisp it up with some garlic and olive oil. So I'm not expecting this kale to get so big that I cannot actually walk in this area. So that is the plan with the kale. I've never grown it like this before. It's always been the dwarf curly kale that I have grown. I don't quite get why they say dwarf either because mine got huge. Mine looked like trees in my garden. Hey ho, got them in and was really pleased with the end result, apart from the fact that the frame needs some more support, which I've since thought maybe if I add some more wood to the base, some heavier duty wood, that maybe that would secure the bed a lot more and it wouldn't move up and down so much. So I think that's my next plan when I can get some muscle down at the allotment, because it's not just lifting the wood, it's also the fact that I'm unable to get down on the floor low enough to be able to screw anything in. Hence why you always see me leaning rather than sitting or kneeling, because I really struggle to do so for longer than maybe a minute now. I am practicing at home with bending and stretching my knees to get some strength in them, but it's not doing what I want it to do as quick as I would like it, especially with my dodgy hip. So it does look like my posture is really bad, and it is, but I do try and walk as much as possible with a straight back so I don't end up with some hunchback. So let's show you around the whole bed while I still have walking space. We have black kale with a row of beetroot all the way to the end. Then we have a row of broccoli. And then up through the middle is the sweetheart cabbage. And then we have the collards with curly kale inside. And all along the edge of the bed we have leeks, and I've also put the leeks just down the back end. Let's just show you here, all the way across there as well. I could have put something here, but I'm just going to leave the beets and leave myself a little bit of foot space as well. So the last thing I'm going to do in this bed is get my aphid spray and give everything a good spray. That one's looking like it could do with a little bit of a spray in here. Just in there. That's where they tend to breed. And we've got some in here. Looking for caterpillars while I'm doing this, as well as watching where I'm walking. So this is definite caterpillar damage on this one. Where are you? No, can't see. Then the further up we go, the more damage that there is from the wonderful caterpillars, which I'm not quite sure how and why when they've been netted for ages now. And then the same here, really good spray in there, and this one's not as bad. Okay, so we've probably got 3 here that isn't great, and the rest are absolutely fine. But this one here, I'm gonna have to go on the outside. This has really come down now, so I need to fix the outside of the cage next. So that's everything there in the brassica bed, ready to overwinter for some delicious early crops. Okay, so I have got pak choi left over. These have been sprayed with an aphid spray because they were covered. So this is the variety that I've got. And I've already got pak choi growing in the raised bed, so I'm just going to pop it down the other side where I have nothing growing. I'm just going to add a little bit of compost just to top it up slightly. Pop a bit of nutrition in. Take that weed out. And I've also got what looks to be a swede growing in here. Very random. Just want to check nothing's starting to bolt or anything like that, and it's not, which is fantastic. Okay, so now I'm just going to go down, make a little trench all the way down. And then pop them in. Oh, I've got a random plant there. Okay, so again, I've soaked these overnight. They are extremely moist. Because there is no water supply here at the allotment, I find it a lot easier if you give it a really good soak in the night before. So probably don't need to have them that close. Yeah, that did feel like glass then, it's not, it's a stick. Right, so we'll have one here, one here, one here. Again, I'll take off some of this bottom stuff. One here and one here. Okay. So always make sure that you fully press them down into the soil. So the roots are fully making contact. So they can then start to grow down, which is exactly what you want, because the further down the roots are, the less watering that is needed.
and it will pick up all of that nutrition from the soil. It's got quite a big root ball on it. And then the last but not least, and this is the most sunshine we've had for a little while, so that's a great addition to today. Okay, so that is the packed toy in. So the next bed I'm going to work with is the one that had the corn on the cob in it. It's had a little bit of compost in it. It's been raked through a little bit with my fingers. Any big pieces of wood or root have actually come out now. I'm going to use this as my trial bed. So I have mini pumpkins growing at home in the greenhouse, and I've got quite a few left over. So while this bed is empty, I'm just going to pop them in, then any nutrition from them and the roots will go into this before I put green manure on it in about a month and a half's time, ready for the winter to revitalize the bed. So this is what the bed is currently looking like. It's not as high up as I'd like it. Let's have a look down here. I mean, it's looking pretty good, but it's not going to hurt just to have a little bit more compost popped in it, and then all of the extra pumpkins that I've brought with me today, which are these, because they are doing so well, I'm just going to pop them in and see what happens. Another little experiment. So it is the 16th of September today, so we will see what happens in 8 to 12 weeks time. Okay, so time to try and fix the runner beams. Not quite sure how that's going to happen right now, but I'm just going to stand it up just to see where it's gone wrong. This was literally like a comedy show. Every time I tried to prop it up, it would fall back down. So I tried so many different ways to prop it up, and the whole time my mum is there trying to mulch the potatoes, and she was so scared the runner beans was going to keep falling on the potatoes or on her. I didn't know what I was doing. The sticks were breaking that were already in place, and runner beans were so stuck on the rods I couldn't move the rods at all. So I did end up getting some more 6-foot canes and tying them on using a little bit of wire, some cable ties, and just angling in the rods enough to hopefully, fingers crossed, keep them up, because I don't want them to snap off. I do want them to
keep going until all of the beans have gone brown so I can harvest the beans. And one thing I am going to do that I wasn't going to do, but I changed my mind since, is I'm actually going to cut the beans off at the base and leave the roots in, because I have read that they will regrow next year. And what I've got left of the runner beans is that small area there, which is all I need because I'm growing different types of beans. So I would like them to grow again there next year. So I will have some supports in place late spring, ready for if they do come up out the ground. Because again, with the theory, the more you grow, the more produce you have, and using beans in so many different ways is a really good source of produce and space and time. They don't take up a lot of time. Once you've done the framework for the beans, they kind of do their own thing. And as long as you keep them moist, and the ground in this area is nice and warm because it's by the compost, the sun is at that side of the plot, so they get at least 8 hours of sun every single day. And I think that's why they're still alive now. I mean, we're talking September. These beans came up at the end of June. So in the beginning of July, I took my first harvest, big harvest, and it's now mid-September and they are still producing beans. This year has been fantastic for beans, so I'm hoping we're going to get another year just the same. You know, fingers crossed. Okay, so we're going to take some of these spring onions out now because some of these are ready. I'm just going to gently pull them because I don't want to break them. That's ready. There you go. That's 4 lovely big spring onions. So this is the infestation that I'm talking about. I have just sprayed it all. I mean, it's horrendous. So bad. I mean, that one has got it all over the cauliflower. However, just over here, I do actually have a cauliflower that hasn't been ruined. So let's keep that one nicely covered up in the hope that they don't find that one. Compost bins, so quite a lot has come out of number 2 and gone into number 1. We've popped cardboard around the edge. Again, it needs watering, it's very dry. The rain tonight, I'm hoping, is going to help with that because I don't want to use the last of our water supply. I cut 2 pumpkins off because they have gone rotten, and 2 are going to be ready to be harvested today. But let's just show you again just a little pumpkin that is growing here, which looks absolutely beautiful. So I will be over the moon if that continues to grow, because that wasn't here a week ago. So if it can grow that much in a week. And then our very large pumpkin, I'm going to wait for my little boy to come down to harvest this one. It's still a little bit green here, but it's definitely drying out here, so I'm sure he will want to harvest that one. Another little one there growing. So the pile that had all of the pumpkin that I cut off has reduced by half, and it's gone into the compost. I've taken out any of the pumpkins from the compost heap because I do not want pumpkins growing from there next year. So let's have a look. So with all this new growth here, I am going to cut these pumpkins. So these were the very first ones, so they are getting a cutting. Lovely. So these have been here the longest. So let's take that up because we want the stem as long as possible. And what I will do with those, I will take them home and cure them for a couple of weeks so the skin is nice and hard, so come Halloween I can pop one of them out for Halloween and the other one will be used for food. The sunflowers didn't get a chance to be dead-headed. They do need to be done. Let's have a look what's in behind. Yes, very much so, because in behind is all of the seeds there that are ready to come out. The Savoy cabbages are doing absolutely fantastic. We've got heads on all of them now. So that's 4 really decent size Savoy cabbages, which we are over the moon at. And the brassica bed has finally been planted up with curly kale, and then I have got black kale, then I have got cabbages, leeks, I've got beetroot in there, and Brussels sprouts. So that is looking really good at the moment. The frame, not so much. And then a nice little surprise today was the garlic that I planted here last year. I thought I pulled it all up, and there must have been 3 cloves still in the ground, because we have 1, 2, and where's that third one? I'm probably stood on it now, mate. Oh, and here, 3 that have come up. So I've just popped them around for now, just to surround it, to make sure that I don't step on it and forget. And then the spring onion bed, the rest of these will come up tomorrow. I've taken some up already, the rest will come up tomorrow, to leave this nice and empty for the green manure or the red clover, either or a bit of both. And then with all the spares of the brassicas, they all went in here. I'm sure the butterflies are going to thoroughly enjoy laying their eggs on them tonight. And we've got some established pak choi and some pak choi that have just gone in today, with 1 Swede that has managed to grow, which is funny. And then my mum put this bed in. This is all of the mini pumpkins that I had left over from home, and rather than throw them out, my heart wasn't in it, I couldn't do it. I thought, just put them here. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It looks pretty. And we did get more fruit today. However, most of it has already been eaten by the bugs, which is why next year they will all be going into a raised bed, so we don't have this issue. There's lots of green ones there, and they are looking pretty good, as damaged as some of these are. A little bit of growth in there from what looks to be a snapdragon. Unusual. Last time we came up, we did plant some bits and pieces into the tyres. Some of the lavender has taken, and some seeds that we popped in have started to germinate. So they're not supposed to germinate till spring, but hey ho. Just in here, that one hasn't made it, so I'm actually going to cut that right back, just in case it does decide to grow. And then the lavender that was cut back before has got some side shoots on here. Let's just take those off, because they need to come off, or next year it will be woody, and nobody likes a woody lavender. That's it for down on the plot today.